In a recent video, I talked about refinances, and somebody asked about why would you ever do a cash-in refi? And the answer is pretty simple. One, it's usually not done out of desire, it'd be done out of necessity. But let me just first talk about one hypothetical scenario that would be not potentially a terrible situation that you'd be doing a cash-in refi, which would be basically some sort of equity recapitalization, which is just a fancy way to say refining the equity portion of the deal, not the debt, or maybe bringing on new partners. And so, for example, you could have an investor in your current deal or a group of investors, and for whatever reason you want to take them out of the deal or they want out of the deal, and you're going to bring in a new partnership. Could be one joint venture partner, could be a group of new investors. And let's say this new investor entity, whether it's an individual or group, wants a different leverage ratio. Maybe they want to come in at the deal. They maybe like the valuation of the deal, but they don't like the existing leverage, right? And so again, we're talking about an equity recapitalization where you're not actually touching the debt. So this would be essentially a situation where the new equity would be stepping into the shoes of the old equity, and they would be taking on the existing debt. But if they don't like the leverage point, maybe they're stepping into the deal at a lower valuation, which then increases the loan to value over a level that they're comfortable with, or they just want to be at lower leverage in general. So if they might just pay down the loan, which is another way of saying cash in refi. You're just paying down the existing loan, or essentially paying off the existing loan and putting on a new loan that is less than the existing loan. So that's kind of a decent scenario, but let's cut to the chase and talk about actually the reality. The most often scenario of a cash in refi, which is when you actually have a decline in valuations and you need to take out the existing lender. It might be a bridge loan that's maturing. And so the lender is saying, hey, buddy, you have to pay me off today and you have to make it happen, right? And the capital markets might not be in a position to actually get you a new loan at the same proceeds amount as the old loan. And so that's where you're going to actually have to do whatever it takes to pay off the lender because they're, all over you. And then you get whatever loan you can, and whatever the difference is, that's where you're bringing in cash in refi proceeds. And that is what you would typically do in a capital call scenario. You'd be making a capital call to your equity partners and using those proceeds to pay down the loan. And so that's actually a good version of a capital call, because the capital call equity is used to pay down the equity. So you're not actually throwing that money away. You're actually just essentially lowering the leverage of the deal and keeping the deal intact. What's worse is when you do a capital call to fund a negative debt service or purchase an interest rate cap, which is essentially the same thing, because an interest rate cap is just essentially a prepayment of interest. So just a warning about capital calls. You want to understand what are the uses of the capital call funds and why is the sponsor doing it. And ideally, you can just be capitalized properly on the way in and also be conservatively leveraged on the way in, so you actually don't need a capital call even in difficult times.